Zach from Gravel Bike California. Maybe you can guess where I'm at. Ready for It Sacramento 2.0. Now, if you just listen to the numerology it just dropped, this is the second straight year we're doing this in February, but a totally new route. This time we'll be out of Velo, Veritas and Old Sac, and yeah, we'll just be doing a lot of waterways, but different ones. Now, we've had some rains here the last couple weeks, so it kind of dictates the course, but nonetheless, it's a great ride, great ending spot, so I'm ready to roll.
The best part about gravel is how united this community is, proved by last year's Send It being our biggest while being the furthest north from my home. But more than the numbers are the connections you make, which is why I was so thrilled to return to Sacramento. Like the mid-year Thursday evening rides out of Velo Veritas, this ride would end at a Bike Dog brewery, with the East Sac location opening after our ride last year. We had a 6-mile ride to the start through the heart of Sacramento, impressing Vic for his first outing with all the nooks and crannies we came across.
You know, this is a problem of all big cities, and maybe even more so. If you're driving through on the freeway, you don't get the context of what it's like on the ground, but I think like Sacramento's got a lot of character, if you can make it out.
The tone was a little less residential, going under the Capital City Freeway, first passing one of our state's earliest historical landmarks in Sutter's Fort that's now a state park, laced with the comfiness of architecture predating our generation and walkable neighborhoods from a time when they had to be. It was understandable that downtown would be quiet on a Sunday morning, able to browse at that perfect speed that bikes allow, since this being our state's capital, no one expected a lot of action around the government offices today. After hailing the King's downtown arena, we made our turn away from the iconic Tower Bridge, ready to start our ride in the heart of it all.
Yeah, the amazing thing about Old Sac is that they raised it all up a level because of the river, and still, look at the antiquity around here.
I love blending cycling with history, placing Velo Veritas in a great spot to experience both, with Kevin taking care of last minute needs and partner in grime Ashley ready to lead us out, dropping knowledge before the ride about today's route. This wasn't as much of a rollout, more like a supernova of cyclists with over 100 to start, reminding me of the great bicycle craze of the 1890s, with more multimodal history with this train station nearing its 100th year anniversary, only temporarily juxtaposed with a taste of brutalism, a look of local government from mid-century, giving way to a more familiar turn-of-the-century aesthetic, including the governor's mansion, dating back to 1877. Rare to have these humble surroundings so close to a downtown, with a little density sneaking in there as well. We regrouped under the landmarked Blue Diamond Almonds complex, heading up the Sacramento Northern Bikeway in said direction that kept the typical bi-directional width that was a bit constricting for a ride of this size, approaching our largest crossing of the day, going over Pipes Bridge, originally an interurban railway to Chico starting in the 1910s, now allowing us to float over the American River that spans over 400 feet in width below. Now, with us being firmly citizens of North Sacramento, we had some maneuvering around the American River Parkway that can serve as an auxiliary floodplain under the circumstances. Although rainfall from midweek wasn't affecting us, back up against vehicular traffic on Northgate Boulevard, not thinking too much of the slight grade nearing the intersection, making a sweeping turn onto Garden Highway, appearing to me first just as another high-speed arterial, typical of layouts seen in more suburban settings. But it wasn't until I looked aside that I got its main purpose, serving as a two-story levee so important to the area's survival. With the bike lane disappearing in the vicinity of I-5, we turned down Gateway Oaks Drive, opting for a U-turn over wrong way riding on this quiet road, dropping into our first dirt sector of the day, waddling our way through Austin B. Carroll Heritage Oak Grove, not purposed directly for gravel, but a great surface nonetheless, enjoying these early hints of spring, lucky to have the park all to ourselves, if even just for a couple minutes. Great having Nguyen drive up from San Jose this morning. As being an out-of-towner myself, I wasn't too sure what was ahead of us, not taking the conventional bike path to the right, crossing El Camino, proud that Kevin had mapped out the dirt parallel instead, and glad not to have my dismount recorded on video as we followed the Natomas Drainage Canal, seeing that the early bird gets the worm to get the fish, with the surface not that saturated from Wednesday's rains, though that didn't matter much for too long, merging onto the bike path we earlier ignored, needing to take advantage of its functionality, riding over this 1/5 of a mile bridge over I-80 that's one of the limited options for getting over, ending our exposure to monumental infrastructure before our turnaround. Maybe someone can explain to me later how the canal skipped the freeway, but to channel my inner Sean Connery, we were playing both sides, as each happened to be the gravel one, as now there was very little structure for our street crossings, and even though it's tough to tell from the visuals, this section was harder than it looked, with a fair amount of depth to this rockscape, wishing 3 wasn't the first number on my tire width, feeling like we were going through a climb, but with no elevation change. While none of us took the bailout points, thanks to favorite photographer Andy for showing up, always getting great shots of our adventures, and making us look good. Usually there are a lot more impediments to our group rides, but I was really happy to have this level of ease, because I might have lost some focus what this is all about, and it's not how much dirt or the epicness of your ride, but quite simply, bikes are fun, and the more, the merrier, with Ben even driving up from LA for today, and getting some out for their first time on a group ride, now reaching the turnaround point by the airport, with so many stories being told, as the bikes did as well, with Kevin's decked out within Velo Veritas palette, or Ashley's Rita, also painted by Dark Matter Finishing out of Colorado, hitting every color correctly in the spectrum, and also mentioning DeWitt's new Voss, who definitely wasn't underbiked for today. It was time to take off, as some were antsy to get to Bike Dog, but clearly the party was just getting started, and Vic wouldn't know it until the end, doubling back over the muddiest part of the day. Nice to be riding in a pack, with this curve showcasing the cycling centipede behind, until this exit demonstrated the effects of a bottleneck that split up the group into smaller segments, a trend that would only continue after each crossing. Although also sporting his number, Chris was still marking me from yesterday's Huffmaster, as was Catherine, who was there, also making last month's Send It in Bakersfield. Sue that today's pace was scaled back, even continuing to take the dirtier path, leaving the concrete option open for others, merging back where we'd overlap the next 6 miles. I don't mind doubling back because you get a new perspective on top of the opportunity of rolling with another subset and seeing how spaces become more occupied over time. It also gives a second chance to turn on the cameras, more prepared to catch these blooms, though you wouldn't have thought we'd be in a position to make a wrong turn now, because it wouldn't really be gravel without it. We took advantage of the brief bike path on the other side of Garden Highway before going into full rewind mode, now reaching the midday hours, seeing more and more cyclists out on the trails. The exit was familiar too, getting us back onto the gridded streets of Sacramento. Now veering away from our starting point, a little disorienting for this out-of-towner, because how many left turns in a row can you make? With the formal signage of Sutter's Landing, we return to being bike path fabulous along the American River, missing out on the dirt option, though it didn't take us long to find our way back, once again with our route multitasking as a levy, with fellow Sea Otter ambassador Jenny providing scale to the homes below. As Sacramento State marked the end of our 4-mile jaunt, seeing a number of students enjoying the path as well, not missing out on the exit thanks to this familiar landmark. Glad to be going through the school on a Sunday, as I've seen firsthand how crowded it is with school in session, and I'd take a degree in wheelies if I could get one, soon connecting with our exit into, thank you very much Elvis, pulling back into Bike Dog Brewing, where the party had already gotten started, already taking up everything outdoors as more were still coming in, thankfully with a beer supply that was able to handle us, though there was some important business first that had to be taken care of.
But there's a piece of business we haven't gotten to today, and it's Vic's birthday, and no one has wished him. Happy birthday to you. Hey!
Once again, we reached maximum mileage, already looking forward to our Send-It Sacramento next year.
Yeah, today didn't have any categorized climbs, but nobody cared. Biking is biking, and gravel bikes are a great tool. It didn't matter what we were riding today or what speed. It just to blend in with the community, especially this one right here. This is why we do it, and I really love the fact that people come from near and far to do it just to be part of something like this. So thanks again, Bike Dog Brewery, Ashley, and Kevin from Velo Veritas. And yes, I'll be doing a lot more to make it out here, because who wants to miss this? Please hit the like button, support us by subscribing, go to our shop so we can bring you more from the state of dirt.